welcome, I'm Kushla. Today I'm going to share with you a few of my favourite methods for quick and easy edging on your crochet. So good luck with it and let me know how you get on. Love to hear your comments. Right, the first of the edgings I'm going to show you is the simplest. It's called a reverse double crochet or crab stitch. All my instructions are in UK terminology, so if you're in the US you're going to call it crab stitch or reverse single crochet. Very simply worked. It's just a double crochet worked, instead of from right to left you're going backwards from left to right, and it gives a lovely scalloped effect. If you want to skip straight to it, just go to the timestamp that appears on your screen now and you'll be able to jump straight there. The second one I'll show you, we'll just wait for this car to go past, is a really simple scalloped effect using just chain stitch and trebles that are brought down flat against the edge of your work. The third one is really simple too. It's a chain stitch scallop worked with picots in the end of it. That one's quite a large one, but we'll show you shortly how you can adjust that to suit yourself. And the fourth one I'll show you is using front and back post stitches to create a rib around your work. And again, if you want to jump straight to a particular method, just look at the timestamp that appears with the stitch and you can go straight there. So we'll get down to it. So our first method for finishing is the reverse double crochet or crab stitch. Now remembering that this time we're working just a really simple double crochet edge, but instead of going from right to left we're going to start in the left corner and work around to the right. So you're simply joining your yarn in as you normally would, but at the opposite end of your work. And then it's just a matter of working a double crochet into each stitch. See, around the edge. It does feel a little bit fiddly simply because you are trying to work your yarn over the top of where you've already been, so it can feel quite odd. But that's it. Excuse that plane flying over. And it just creates just that gentle little, almost a zigzag effect on the edge of your row. Our second method for edging now is the flattened trebles. So this is the treble worked with the chain along the top edge, and the scallop around the edge is formed by the chain bunching up as you work. So this one we're just going to join in. Now where you could do a standing treble with other methods, with this one we're going to stick with the 3 chain so that it matches the rest of our work. So we've got our 3 chain in here, and then we're just going to work a treble. So we've got the 2 stitches there, and then you're going to lie that treble flat down against your work, and it joins in nicely. If I miss 1, 2 and work into the 3rd stitch there, work a double crochet, and that flattens that treble along the edge, and the chain sort of bunches up and creates that scallop edge. So again, we're going to work a 3 chain, then the treble into the same place as the double crochet. Then we're going to miss 1, 2 stitches and work another double crochet onto the 3rd stitch, and then we're coming up with that little scallop. If you want a more dramatic scallop, you can do your 3 chain and your treble and only miss 1 stitch if you want to. So working into the same place first, and if we miss 1 stitch and work our double crochet, and you'll see that chain is going to stick up further. But for this I quite like it a bit flatter, so I'm going to miss the 1, 2 and work into the 3rd. I'll just get to the corner and you can see what we're going to do to work around the corner. So here we've got 2 chains, but I don't think it should be. That looks a bit lumpy there, so I'm just going to skip that and go straight into the next treble. 1, 2, 3, here comes the corner. That's 2, to the 3rd one. Now when we come to the corner, you can, as I did in the example here, work it flattened so you get sort of a chopped off effect on the corner, or we can make it really square. Do a 3 chain, treble in here. Now we haven't quite worked our stitches even enough to make it come out exactly right at the corner, but it will do. And then we're going to do 3 chain, treble into the same corner space, and we're going to flatten it in that same corner space. So instead of skipping 2 stitches and flattening it down here, which would give that flat corner effect that we've got over here, we're going to join in at the same space in the corner. So our corner is going to have its own little scallop. Then 3 chain, and we're going to work into the same corner again with that next treble, and then miss our 2 stitches and work the double crochet, and then we're around the corner. Simple as that. Next we have a really simple chain with a picot around the outside, and this is really convenient if you're working something that's very fine and lacy and you don't want too obvious an edge on it. It finishes it nicely. Right, so we're joining in as we usually would. Now on this example here, I've worked 2 or 3 chains in between the picots and the double crochets, so, and that looks really extremely zigzaggy, so I'm going to try and soften that look by reducing the number of chains between. So we'll just try 1 chain. So I'm just going to mark that with my fingernail as I work 3 chains for the picot, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch back into that chain, work 1 chain, and then deciding how zigzaggy I want it and how flat I want it, I'm going to miss 1, 2, 3, I'm going to work into the 4th stitch there. And there we go, that's going to come out a little bit flatter than the previous one. So 1 chain, and then 3 chains for the picot, 2, 3, slip stitch back into that first chain, 1 chain, and then missing 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, into the 4th. You can see there whoever worked this square has not included a chain in between stitch groups there, but over here they have, so we're going to have to work with that and see how we get on. One chain, 1, 2, 3 chain picot, slip stitch, 1 chain, and then we've got there's, oh goodness me, 2 chains in between here, 1, 2, and then a stitch. So we've got 1, 2, 3, so we should be working into this stitch here. Getting the tails caught up, don't want that. Right, we'll get to the corner and I'll show you how to work around the corner. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into that first chain. Now I'm working over 2 strands. Each chain stitch has 3 strands to it basically. It's back bump strand and the 2 at the front that make the V. I'm working over one edge of it, so I'm inserting my hook underneath the left hand side of the V and underneath the back bump, and it just gives it a nice tight finish on the picot so it doesn't look all loose and lumpy. Right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that works out well. We're straight into the corner space. We're going to do 1 chain, 2, 3 for the picot, slip stitch, and I'm going to work my 1 chain and double crochet back into the same space so that our corner has its own little bump there, and then start working around the next edge. And there you have it. So you can see by adjusting the number of chains that you use and the number of stitches you skip between double crochets in your row, you can decide how dramatic and how emphasized you want your picots and loops to be. Our final method for working and edging this time is working front post and back post trebles around the outside to create a ribbed effect. Now this one's really simple because you're just working into each stitch, and to begin with we'll join them. We can actually do a standing treble for the beginning here. And our first row is not going to be anything different from working normal trebles, just simply working an ordinary treble into the top of each stitch, or stitch equivalent if you've got a lot of spaces in that final edge, or final row. Here we come to a space, and I only want a single stitch for each space so that I don't wind up with it frilling. So this is just the foundation row of our edge. Now this edging type is quite intensive on yarn, so you will need to make sure that you've got enough yarn to finish your project and complete a reasonably deep edging. If you only work a couple of rows, it's not as effective, and this is just starting to get effective here now, but it could be worked out even further and it looks really amazing. but we'll just work a couple of rows here so you can get the idea. But do allow plenty of yarn for this or you will run out, and that's no fun. Right, here we're coming to the corner, so I'm going to work one treble, one chain, and then another treble into the same corner. So that treble is for this edge, the second treble is for this edge, and our one chain gets us around the corner. Potentially I could even put 2 chains in there to make sure it bends well enough. Let's do that. Let's put 2 chains in there and see what happens. Okay, you can see there that just that one extra chain in there is going to help get around that corner a bit more neatly than one chain would. So you'll need to figure these things out on your own project as you go too. Do take that sort of thing into account, and if you need that extra little stitch in there, do it. Right, we'll just finish that stitch group. Work one into that space. And ordinarily, if you're working around the edge of a project, you'd keep going round until you got to the end of your row and then simply slip stitch into the top of your first treble chain or standing treble up and then start your next row. But in this case I'm too lazy, so we're just going to work 3 chain and turn. Now this is where we start doing the front and back post. So I'm going to make this next stitch front post one, and the easier way to remember front and back post is front post, you're picking the stitch of the previous row up and pulling it forwards. With the back post we're going to push it backwards. And you're working around the post of the stitches, not through the top. So front post, back post. Now here we are at the corner again. So my next treble is going to be a front post. Now I've got no front or back post stitch to work into to create the corner trebles, so I'm just going to work an ordinary treble, two chain and another ordinary treble, and they will become a front post and back post stitch on the return row as we've done down here. But we need to keep track of which one we've done. So we've done a front post here, that was our last stitch. So this one, we'll pretend it's a back post. This one is a front post, so our next stitch into this treble is going to be a back post. Do be careful to count, otherwise you'll wind up with really mucky corners that and your rows won't work out. So, that's something else to add. You need multiple of 2 stitches to work this one. So if you find that the outer edge of your project is 1 stitch short, you can ease an extra stitch in there to bring it up to count. It's not too tricky. Now in this case we're working a square, so getting around the corner is no problem. We just work the corners into each corner. If you're working a circular project, you will need to make regular increases around the circumference of your project to allow it to flare out. So I've done a front post, back post. And really that's it. You can see here our corner is starting to come up. On this one you can see the trebles worked into the corners, keeping the patterns in order so that you don't lose track of what you've got. And the deeper you work this, I mean, you can see here 2 rows of trebles is not going to be enough to make the pattern look effective. It just looks a bit messy. But the further out you work, I've done 1, 2, 3, so we're getting up to our 4th row around the outside here, and it's just starting to look effective there. So do keep in mind that you will need a lot of yarn to get the most out of this edging. But that's it. If you'd like to see more or have me demonstrate some more techniques for you, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.